Women and men around the world are celebrating the birth of the Founding Mothers movement to secure universal rights for all women and to end war. Simply put, we've had enough of patriarchy and privilege. We will no longer tolerate family violence, sexual assault, child marriage, girls who can't go to school or let their hair down, men depriving us of reproductive freedom, or sacrilege against Mother Earth. The military-industrial complex trains men to kill on command. They're also weaponizing AI. Soldiers rape women as a staple of war, and surviving women and children are left homeless. The founding fathers of every nation have brought us to where we are. Now, the founding mothers are joining together to lead us into an era of partnership and peace, a future that works for everyone. We're a global coalition, uniting women's groups, peace organizations, spiritual communities, and environmental groups. We're taking action to shed archaic belief systems, transform barbaric behaviors, eradicate misogyny and racism, and protect democracy. Instead of a war room, we're building a peace room. And we're spreading truth, love, and light. We serve as diplomats and peace negotiators, business leaders, elected officials, caregivers, and wisdom keepers. And we've got a concrete plan to grow this into the mother of all movements. First, we wish to honor the Mother's Day proclamation written by Julia Ward Howe. Mother's Day was not created for gift cards and chocolates. It was a call to action for an international Congress of women to pursue the great and general interest of peace. Second, we're reimagining the Women's Congress. It will network thousands of women's groups around the world. Third, in addition to unifying our sisters around the world, we're inviting our brothers to join us. Stakeholders who lead peace, spiritual, and environmental groups. Just imagine our united strength when we, the people, organize. We'll move mountains if we focus on two specific goals: partnership and peace. Please join the Founding Mothers movement today. If you lead a women's organization, register for our online Women's Congress and help compose the Founding Mothers Manifesto. If you lead a peace, spiritual, or environmental group, enroll your organization in the coalition and help transition humanity from patriarchy to partnership. And if you're an individual who understands that our future is at stake, sign up for our mailing list, donate, volunteer your skill set, and be ready for a series of escalating campaigns starting on January the 1st, 2025. Join the Founding Mothers movement and help transform the world.
Great. That's wonderful. So Laura's organization, the Founding Mothers Movement, is here to speak with us for a bit about what's happened. It's been almost a year since she spoke to us. So I wanted she and then Judith for Project Enduring Peace will speak, and then we'll have our guest speaker, Ellen Barfield. So Laura, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. Tell me how much time you want me to speak, Diane.
Like 5 minutes. Give us an update.
Sure. So we launched officially on July 5th, and that was after about 9 months of planning, sort of apropos gestation period. This started as a collaboratory of the female members of the Evolutionary Leaders, which is a thought leaders group that draws from people all over the world, started by Deepak Chopra and Barbara Marx Hubbard. So for 9 months, we planned this and worked on our strategic plan, built the website. We launched on July 5th, and then immediately convened the inaugural Women's Congress on July 20th. and we have met every month thereafter and have passed legislation. We have a very unique consent-based, I call it matriarchy, model of governance. It's based heavily on sociocracy, if you're familiar with that, where we actually don't vote unless we have to. Instead, when someone makes a proposal, we wait to see if anyone objects. And if there's no objections, boom, it passes. It's a very efficient system for legislative bodies. Most recently at the October Congress, we passed the Founding Mothers Proclamation. We're not calling it the manifesto anymore. I woke up one morning and I went, man, a festo. No, not a good word. So it's the Founding Mothers Proclamation, and we issued it officially on October 2nd, which was Gandhi's birthday and International Day of Nonviolence. And in 5 very concise pages, we address both gender equity issues, family violence issues. We address economic issues pertaining to women. And then that's the first half of the document. And the second half of the document deals with war. And we had 7 international attorneys work on the proclamation with us. And we were very fortunate to attract the attention of the former head attorney at the United Nations. She had just retired and learned about founding mothers and very generously helped edit the document. So a lot of very, very skilled eyes were on this document. And in the second half, what we realized is that we actually can't even put a template forward based on anything that currently exists, because as we all know, the UN Security Council isn't a democratic system. As we also all know, the International Court of Justice doesn't have mandatory jurisdiction over nation state disputes. So what we ended up doing in the second half of the document is very unique. We pulled pieces of a constitution that was drafted over the course of about 30 years by jurists from all over the world. It's called the Earth Constitution. It's not the Earth Charter, and it's not the Charter of Compassion. This is a real Earth Constitution. And there were provisions in there that very much made sense. Oh, she's holding it up. So we adopted out of it, or we incorporated out of it, the World Judiciary article and also the World Enforcement article, and we put that in. And lastly, I just want to mention one of the women involved in Founding Mothers is Anna Lou Smitsman, and she crafted in an open source fashion, there were editors from all over the world, an AI constitution dealing with the dangers of artificial intelligence. And that also is referenced in the Founding Mothers Proclamation, because obviously the largest investors in the military are also funding AI. So the proclamation has gone to all UN ambassadors. Today it went to about 600 tribal leaders. We're going to send it to heads of state, and we're going to watch its progression and hopefully its acceptance over time. And because we're not naive about how difficult it is to implement world change, we are going to commence campaigns on January 1st, 2025. These are going to be very novel, nonviolent, very creative ideas, not your typical women's march, let's walk down the road with a poster. So that's coming. And I know my 5 minutes are probably up, so I just want to end by saying it was our dream initially, for those of you who heard me speak before, that Wilf would take the lead in this. Wilf was just heavily emphasized in both the initial white paper, still on the website. We've got various branches of Wilf involved, and it's not too late. Wilf is a big organization. Right now, our little charity is acting as the fiscal sponsor, but this is a true umbrella brand. It is not another nonprofit. So we did that on purpose. We want everyone to feel ownership in Founding Mothers, and just really hoping that Wilf will continue to be involved, if not take the lead on this, because we are very indebted to the work that this very storied women's and peace movement has done for, gosh, 100 years, right? I mean, almost. Jane Addams, yeah, we're coming up on it. So thank you very much for letting me do the update.
Well, thank you, Laura. But yeah, it's been over 100, I think it's 110 years next year. So
Yeah.
we want to celebrate it. We have one hand raised, and so I guess we might as well take Teresa, go ahead with your question.
Oh, well,
And then
thank you.
And then Darian has something to say. Teresa?
Yeah, this is like news to me. But the Southern Anti-Racism Network is a women's led nonprofit that works for transformation of society. And it sounds like this is something we could get on board with. So I'm trying to understand how the collaboration is being built and how do other organizations sign on to the Founding Mothers Movement. Could we be an organization that signs on? We just ended our administrative committee meeting 7 to 8 tonight, and we meet again on November 13th, where we could explore being a part of this movement. So how does one join the movement?
So we have multiple ways to join. So we have a feature for individuals. We call them world citizens, so they can join. We also heavily emphasize the partnership, which is what you're talking about. And then once a partner group joins, they then are eligible to send a delegate to the Congress. So we have set the threshold at 25 person groups. Otherwise, the Congress would be inundated. So any group that has 25 or more members can send a delegate. And we meet every month. And it's not a hailing circle. It's not a talky women's circle. This is a real Congress. And our goal is to establish universal women's rights and to end war. And the reason we chose those two specific demands is because if we can achieve those two things, all the other elements of the polycrisis are remediable. The research is in. When women are at the boardroom, when women are, in Congresses, when women are running companies, everything changes. So it's women in war, or flipped, partnership and peace. Those are the two goals. And it's very easy to join. And we love to have more WILF branches in, and we'd love to have WILF US in. And each branch can send a delegate, by the way. For large organizations like WILF, which have multiple branches, each branch can send a delegate to Congress.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I didn't catch your name. I came on late.
That's okay. I'm Laura George. I also
Oh, you're
help
Laura
lead.
George. Well,
Yeah,
Laura,
hi.
Laura, could you drop the link in the chat so I could go to the web page and I can sign up? Is that how you sign up at the web page?
Mm-hmm. Yep. You can sign up as an individual, or you could sign
No,
up your WILF branch.
Laura, please
Yes.
listen. The organization is called the Southern Anti-Racism Network. And we are
We all know about the Southern Anti-Racism Network. You mentioned that before, and I'm waiting patiently sort of to ask my question about Founding Mothers Movement, which is our discussion topic.
Well, look, I'm probably the only Black woman in this call. So if you could just give me a little respect to get my question in to Laura so that she understands, because she kept saying branch. She kept saying branch.
Yeah, or any organization with 25 members can join and is desired. Particularly women's groups. So there's different.
Well,
watch the videos she sent. We have the she sent the website to go and look at, and you can sign up there. So that would be great. So Darian, go ahead.
Yeah, these are the four.
Thank you. The website is in the chat. The website is in the chat, and I thank you for letting me speak, because I think it's important for our voices to all be represented. And I admire, Laura, the Founding Mothers Movement initiative to represent all voices through the Congresses. I just want to say, I have read about Founding Mothers Movement and looked at the web pages, but it's a very thought through, complex, multifaceted, multi-level kind of effort. And I'm admiring of the ways it's been thought through. So thank you for presenting it today in a way where I finally get the overview of the whole thing. It sounds great that you have come so far already. And my question is really more, I get involved with the process aspects, and WILF branches are not necessarily 25 or more people. We have WILF issue committees, we have WILF committees. There are all kinds of groupings within WILF, and it would be interesting for WILFers to think about what is a legitimate grouping to participate on that behalf with Founding Mothers Movement. Having multiple WILF groups involved, to me, it's a more powerful message than, well, it's great if WILF US could be directly involved, but at this time, you and I should talk sometime. Anyway, we're in a state of flux in WILF, and I expect that within another year, with the WILF US elections over and the US elections over, we'll have a better perspective of how WILF US can collaborate more. And thank you for the work you're doing. So that was not really a question, except to wonder about what subgroupings would be appropriate, issue committees, larger branches, etc.
Yes, I quickly showed that we're following the suffragette playbook. I'll just show it really fast again. But had environmental groups existed back then, that would have been part of their coalition. So yeah, it's women's groups, peace and democracy, spiritual and religious. So, you know, they brought the churches in for Kellogg Brand and all of that, and then environmental groups. So those are the four groupings. But yes, any nonprofit, any charity, any even business. We've got some businesses who have joined. So if you're behind universal rights for women and an end to war, and you want to help us do, probably, I think it's the first global movement in history. We had to test our processes for the last 4 months to make sure we could handle scaling. And we're also taking security very seriously. The Congresses are private events because we've already got delegates in dangerous parts of the world. We have women from Pakistan and Afghanistan in already, and we just had our first Palestinian delegate sign up this week. So yeah, please join us. We're trying to do something that's never been done. I mean,
Well,
you know,
thank
people,
you, Laura.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just hope everyone gets excited about it. I think it's great. Okay, our next speaker is Judith Hannon. She spoke also almost a year ago to the group, to this Jane Addams meeting, and now she's going to give us her update.
Okay. I've been working on something. The reason I'm very excited about Founding Mothers Movement is because we share the same goal, which is empowering women and ending wars, because those are the two pivotal things that would simply change human history. It would shift human history in a completely different direction. And the necessity for doing that has become very obvious. So we're allied, and we're hoping that our project, Project Enduring Peace, will be something that the huge numbers of women who will be involved in Founding Mothers Movement will also pay attention to and be willing to give us a little support. So let me talk about where we are and how I got to here. I am a biologist by training, and I've studied war for over 20 years, not only war, but the relationship of women to war. And about 10 years ago, I had concluded studies and had come up with an answer to one question, which is most people do not believe that we can end war. I've spoken to hundreds of groups, and when I ask them that question, the answer is like 70% of people, at least in the United States, would say, no, it's a wonderful idea, but we can't be done because war is what we do. It's part of human nature. So as a biologist, I spent a lot of time trying to find out if that was true. Is it part of human nature? It is not. So that was one thing I concluded. The second thing I concluded was, well, you could end war, but there would be a lot of necessary conditions to doing so. And one of the key necessary conditions would be the empowerment of women globally, lots of women who can have a global influence, because war and making war is a male, human male behavior. It's not caused by women. It's a thing that men are involved in. So if you want to end war, you are going to have to empower women. Having come up with those two things, I realized that that was about 10 years ago. There were not enough powerful women in the world to achieve any change. That's changed. As a year and a half ago, I realized we now have a lot of powerful women. That's why you can have a founding mothers movement that will change the future, because there are lots of powerful women in all kinds of businesses, government, military, whatever. So what we decided to do was to put together a way we could begin making the change. And I discovered the work of an anthropologist that I had learned about also about 10 years ago. His name is Douglas Fry, and he's an anthropologist who studied what he calls peace systems. Peace systems he defines as groups. They can be tribal groups, they can be states, they can be nations, but they are groups of people who are living side by side. And at some point in their history, they come up with the idea that making war, they've been making war, these people. We've been making war for thousands of years. These groups come up with the idea that they want to stop making war. And what they come up with is some kind, that's the first step, the agreement. We are not going to make war anymore. This is crazy. Usually they have a set of visionary leaders who lead them and get them to convince them we could do this. Let's get together and stop making war. And his work showed how that's done in several different peace systems. So what Project Enduring Peace is an educational effort. First of all, we educate about two things. The first thing is, it is in fact possible to end war. We have to kill that idea that war is inescapable, it is inevitable, what you're trying to do is ridiculous because it can't be done. We have to answer that question very firmly, and that's what we've been working on, and that's ready now. We have a video that will talk to that skepticism. And the second thing is, you have to offer people something. You have to offer them the vision of what they can have. And the beautiful thing about Doug Fry's work is he explains it's a little short video, 8.5-minute video. It's on YouTube. Any of you can go and watch his 8.5-minute video. It's called The Science of Peace Systems. And that's what we're basing our idea on. Namely, that the first thing you have to do to have an Earth peace system, we'll have to agree that we're going to stop making war. And where will that happen? It's not going to happen with the leaders of the world. Too many of them are invested in making war, or they don't believe it's possible. If they're non-believers, they think war is what we do. We have to plan for war. We have to have armies and machines and weapons because war is going to be inevitable. Once you convince them that that is not the case, you can get the attention of the world leaders. And what you bring to them is two things: the educational component and the action component of PEP. The action component is a petition that we've put on change.org. It's a very handy organization if you want to have a petition. And it's intended to reach the world leaders that can start making a peace treaty again. Now, any of you who've worked with petitions know that if you have a small cause, you want to change something locally in your local government, you may have to get, I don't know, 10,000 signatures. If you want to change something in your state government, you're more likely to need like 50,000 or 75,000 signatures. If you want to change something with the United States government, you want to get their attention, you have to have at least 100,000 signatures. So right away, we knew that PEP could not get that number of signatures in anything less than 3 years, but we believe it can be done. So this is a 3-year project right now to get 100,000 signatures. At the end of every year, we will send those to heads of state, all the heads of state that Laura has already contacted, and we will send it to the representatives in the United Nations. We haven't given up on what we already have in place. The United Nations is not functioning well, but it can be made to function if we use a third thing that PEP counts on, and that is people power. We want to give this message to the people, the citizens of the world, using all kinds of media, movies, films, digital networks, whatever we can, the message that we don't have to have wars anymore. There is a way out. It's called a peace system. And if you'll go and sign our petition, you'll become part of the PEP movement. You'll be on the petition and you will be urging world leaders to get together and sign an agreement. And we launched about 3.5 weeks ago. We already have 90 signatures and we have not done much of anything, but I gave one talk and my team has mostly told their friends and relatives. And already we have 90. We believe that this will attract petitions, signatures quite rapidly. So the last thing I want to do is show all of you how you can get yourself and your friends and your family and the groups that you belong to go and check it out at change.org and read the petition. You know, my digital guru says to me, people won't even, once you explain it to them, Judith, they won't even read the petition, they'll just sign it. Well, that's turning out to be kind of true. I mean, I talked to 2 men at breakfast the other day. They were truckers, and I gave them our card and explained what it was all about, and they immediately signed up. So here's what you do. You go to www.projectenduringpeace, that's all one word, .org. www.projectenduringpeace.org. Scroll down just a little bit, and you'll see a tab that says change.org, sign the petition. You click on that and you're there. You can read the petition and you can sign it. And what we hope you do is get excited about this idea, realize that it's part of the same movement that Laura is working on. That is an end to war. That's the first step. We can't continue making war and spending money on war and hope to change future for the better. We have to get a peace system. So think world peace system. That's what we're striving for. Now, what I'd like to do, if I have any time left, I'd like to take any questions you have.
Oh, well, of course, if there are any questions. But I just wanted to say that Judith has a wonderful website. She has videos on it and information. It's just, there's just so much that she's done, and you can learn so much by going to there, not just signing the peace pledge, but reading about other things, and so that's what I recommend.
Yeah, there it is. That's the homepage.
But go up above, yeah, and there's a Future Without War that she has so many interesting things on it.
Yeah, now that you have that up, Laura, Diane, thank you. Under that, A Future Without War, that first menu bar there, Home, Overview, Cornerstones. If you look on the cornerstones, they're the other things that we would have to do if we want to get rid of also of civil wars. Our petition is about international warfare. But if you want to get rid of civil wars, that's a bigger project, but those are the things that would have to be the necessary conditions that have to be dealt with. And there are videos, there are book reviews, there's some movie reviews. And then you'll see about in the middle there is Project Enduring Peace. It's a continuation of A Future Without War's work. About related projects, that one is a drop-down list of all kinds of organizations that are working on the cornerstones. Empowering women, enlisting young men, ensure essential resources, foster connectedness, promote nonviolent conflict resolution, provide security and order, shift our economies, and spread liberal democracy. Those are other things that we have to be working on to end all war. But the beginning point is the peace treaty it must be completely united. That is, all the nations of the world have to be involved in getting that treaty together.
So I hope everyone signs that treaty. Go there tonight and sign it. And thank you, Judith, so much for presenting. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. Okay. So now, and thank you, Laura. And now we're going to go to our featured guest speaker. Oh, we have a question from Ren. Go ahead, Ren.
Thank you. Just a quick question. I'm Judith. I'm wondering what the number of signatures you think is needed in order to have maximal leverage, like if there's a target number that you're looking for.
Definitely. It's 100,000. And we would like to have more. It can't be less than 100,000 to get the attention of the United Nations and the heads of state of countries. But it's been shown that about 100,000 will start getting attention.
Okay,
Thank you.
so let's work to get her there. Okay, so now Ellen Barfield is going to be our guest speaker. She's involved in so many things. I've seen her in New York and different places. She was at the Commission for Status of Women. She's in Veterans for Peace. She's been at different rallies and demonstrations. So Ellen, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Diane. What I'm going to talk about tonight is a trip I took in June. Some of you know that I am a U.S. Army veteran. I did not serve, sorry. Let me avoid that word. I was used by the military-industrial complex from 1977 to 1981. And in 1980, I was sent to South Korea, where things were pretty bad. There had been a coup and the assassination of their leader the year before, and things were still tense in the country. Now, I was in a maintenance unit, not a combat unit. That was long enough ago that women weren't allowed in combat. And I worked on heavy equipment, forklifts, scoop loaders, that kind of thing. But in May of 1980, there was a big massacre in the city of Gwangju, where historically that city has a lot of independence, and they were rising up against the imposed worsening dictatorship. And it was Korean troops who killed them, but as US troops were right behind them. And for a week or 10 days, we didn't go to the motor pool as maintenance people. We sat in our barracks and got riot training. And because women were only recently, in fact, during my basic training a couple of years before, caused to be designated just regular soldiers like the rest, instead of the leftover Women's Army Corps from World War II, when women were essentially just secretaries. But we'd become regular soldiers. It was right after Vietnam, if you think about the date. And so there wasn't a lot of hot war going on at the time. Vietnam kind of slowed the Pentagon down for a little bit. But there were US troops in South Korea ever since the hot war there of the early 1950s. There were 25 or 30,000 of us there, and there still are that many, have been all this time. And so we got riot training, and it looked like we were going to have to hit the streets with our rifles. Didn't quite go that far, but obviously the US government was very nervous and thought things were about to explode. And they still claim now that they didn't have any responsibility or knowledge. That was a South Korean thing. That's the US dominating the world. The reason I went to Korea with another Veterans for Peace colleague also, I'm very active in Veterans for Peace. We, Veterans for Peace, had sent a letter of condolence to people in South Korea because some years ago, during a war game, it wasn't war, it was just a war game, a US tank ran over, crushed, and killed 2 Korean schoolgirls, 15 years old. And it caused a lot of uproar and resistance to US militarism in Korea. And they have struggled, but finally have a peace monument for them. And they commemorate every year their killing. And we sent a letter of condolence, and they invited us to send delegates. That was 2 years ago. For this year, they invited us to send delegates, and Elliot Adams and I were those delegates. And also, I'm thrilled to tell you that there is a People's Tribunal planned for May of 2026, so about a year and a half away now still, which will bring together a bunch of Korean survivors of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Japan had occupied the peninsula of Korea before the US did for about the whole first half of the 20th century, and they were pretty abusive. Like, they cut down every tree in the peninsula, and they had a lot of forced labor, or slave labor, if you will, including 70 to 100,000 people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki doing the work that the Japanese men were off fighting war and weren't there to do. And a lot of them got vaporized too. And Japan was constrained from ever bringing a lawsuit against the US, but the Koreans were not. So that's what will be being looked into. And that was the other reason for our trip. Let me pull up my photos now. And go from there. That first photo you see, can you see it?
Yes.
Thank you. And sorry that I didn't do a PowerPoint. I'm a Luddite, so this is what you get. I can do this fairly simply. This first photo is the first afternoon. Elliot is on the right. I'm in the middle, as you can tell. And Reverend Heon Kim, our host, is right there on the left. That is over the city of Seoul. You can see Korea is very mountainous, and that will apply later when I make some other comments. That was just seeing some of seeing some of where we were in Seoul. So sort of being a tourist. Now this is at the Odusan Reunification Tower, which is, as you hear, about looking into trying to reunify North and South Korea. They were divided by the US military during and after the war, and they've never been able to reunite, but a lot of them really want to. In the background is the Han River, which is a lot of what's called the demilitarized zone, the line that divides North and South. And far in the back there is North Korea. This photo is at the commemoration of the 2 girls who were crushed. On the 13th of June is when that happened, and that was the day we were at the very nice memorial they had set up for them, and 150 or so people were there. It was well attended. Elliot and I both spoke. The image behind us is of the huge candlelight vigils that happened all over Korea and even all over the world, when Korean Americans and Koreans all over the world rose up in opposition to the terrible abuses of the US military in South Korea. They surrounded the 2nd Infantry Division headquarters. It was the 2nd Infantry Division tank that did the crushing. They surrounded the headquarters and made a lot of noise and have struggled all these years. It was 2002 when the killing happened. That sounds like a long time ago, but the struggle to commemorate the girls in a decent way and to go from there to demand that the status of forces agreement, which is the arrangement between US military installations anywhere around the world, and there are 800 to 1,000 of them around the world in about 80 countries. The status of forces agreement sets up the agreement between the host country and the US military. And it's very abusive toward the host country. And for one thing, it removes any possibility of legal proceedings against any US soldier, no matter what they do, including driving their tank over 2 girls and crushing them. And the lawsuit that did happen that the US government held lied. They claimed that the driver of the tank and the forward observer had lost radio contact just at the very second where it would matter. And on a narrow civilian road, the tank was too wide and it had to go on their shoulder. Well, gee, they were there. Oh, gee, too bad. That was not true. It was uncovered later. You can understand why the Koreans are angry. This is the 2 girls. Their names are Shin, Hyo-sun. Now, some of you may know that the Koreans say their last name first, what we would call their last name. So Shin is the first girl's name, Hyo-sun Shin, as we would say it. And Shim Mi-seon, or Mi-seon Shim, they have similar last names. Here is the beautiful panel that is in the Peace Memorial now, but the Koreans had years of struggle. This was created by a famous Korean artist. It is metal with the design cut through it so the light shows through. And the image is of candle flames flying off to become flowers to represent the souls of the 2 girls. And in language there that I can't read, but it gives their names. And here we are after the commemoration ceremony. A lot of the students sang in a beautiful chorus. That was another part of the ceremony. And they were very interested to interact with us afterward. It was really delightful. Here is a wonderful meeting we had with an interfaith group. There's the second from the left standing is Reverend Kim again, our host. He arranged this meeting with a wonderful interfaith group of people who work on the Peace Commemoration Committee and other good stuff. And we had just a wonderful interaction with them. It was a delightful meeting and the relationships continued. Now, the other thing we did at my request, aside from making more relationships for the People's Tribunal on Hiroshima and Nagasaki next year, and commemorating the 2 schoolgirls and helping them with their project of building a peace archive. That's their next project. And I will send the link to the booklet, which gives the story. This booklet gives the story of what happened and the struggle the Korean people had to find out the truth and to try to get some restriction on the US military in their country. I will send you that link in a little while. I'll put it in the chat. But the other thing we did was go to where I was stationed in 1980. It's called Camp Humphreys, and it was plenty big when I was there. It was largely an Air Force base with some Army troops there too, like me. But it is the biggest US base in the world now. And it is 3 times as big as it used to be. And it stole a lot of scarce Korean farmland. I mentioned earlier, you see the mountain behind Seoul. So Korea is very mountainous. They don't have a lot of farmland. And the US military demanded that this base get much, much bigger. It is now about a 50,000 citizen US city, essentially. And what you're seeing here, you see Anjong Rodeo Street. The bigger city there is called Pyeongtaek, but Anjangni is the little village, which was right outside the Camp Humphreys gate when I was there. And it is now a large attraction for the GIs to go to of an evening or a weekend. Anjong Rodeo Street, it's been very Texanized because Texas is kind of a mythological interest that a lot of international people have. You see the rodeo money exchange, the barber shop, the Baptist church. It serves US people. It doesn't serve the Koreans. They work there. It doesn't serve them at all. And here we have me giving an interview in front of very high-rise barracks and family housing. None of that stuff was there when I was stationed there. As I said, Camp Humphreys is much, much bigger than it used to be. And these huge buildings were right there behind us. Over the fence, you can see the concertina wire there. And to the left of the photo, beyond the photo, is a third elementary school being built. See, when I was there, you were only there for 1 year. It was an unaccompanied tour where you couldn't bring your family. But now you can bring your family and you're there for 3 years. And they live in a US style city, which uses US amounts of energy and has all kinds of US cultural and the things that US people expect. And it imposes on the Koreans tremendously. And here we have a picture of the building to the most rightward is the UN command building, because the US dragged the United Nations into the war in the early 50s, the hot war, and they never had a treaty. War now, there still is no treaty. 70 plus years since the hot war of the early 50s. And the UN was supposedly a UN action. And so that building to the rightmost of the photo is the UN command, but it's really US command. And the reason they don't want a treaty is because the US retains command control of the Korean troops. And with all this saber rattling toward China, you better believe the US doesn't want a treaty. They want to retain that command control of those tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Korean troops. It is very distressing, the saber rattling toward China and North Korea. And the US has helped push to install a very right-wing president of South Korea right now, who separated from previous attempts to reunite the peninsula. So it goes on, the struggle continues. And it was distressing but good to see Camp Humphreys and how huge it is. I knew it had grown, but it was stunning still to see it. As I said, the US is really rattling sabers toward China and would use those Korean troops in a heartbeat. There was a huge Pacific Ocean war game a couple of months ago where Japan also, which did have a constitutional item which said no overseas Japan troops anymore after World War II, but the US managed to finally get rid of that. So Japan is back in the war game, the international war game. And Japan and Korea don't like each other much because of the way Japan treated Korea when they occupied. So it's not something that Korean troops or people like very much, but it's something the US pushed. It's very distressing, and we need to pay attention, because as if Ukraine and Gaza weren't enough, a third potential nuclear war is trying to be ginned up by the warmongers who lead our country and NATO. So it was, as I said, instructive and distressing to be there, but wonderful too, and the struggle continues. Reverend Kim is actually in the country right now. He's a Presbyterian minister, and he's been visiting Presbyterian churches all over the country, raising funds for the ongoing Peace Memorial and Archive, and spreading the word about tensions because of US military pressure on Korea. Thank you so much for hearing me. The trip was important, and paying attention to another long lacking in peace part of the world, largely because of US militarism. Thank you.
Ellen, that was wonderful. Just so interesting. I had no idea about Camp Humphreys being the biggest base outside the US. Wow. So thank you. Are there any questions for Ellen? Teresa?
Yes, Alan. It's so good to see you. and glad to see
Good to
you
see you
active
too.
in the DMV branch. My question is about the unification movement. About 20 years ago, I met some peace women from Korea who were working on the unification of North and South, but I haven't heard anything lately. Do you know the status of the unification movement from the bottom up, grassroots people? I know it's really hard in these times, but is the movement still continuing?
Among the people, absolutely, Teresa. But unfortunately, you may have heard me mention that with US pressure, you know, they scream about foreign interference in our elections in the US, but the US has been interfering in every election all over the world for decades. So that's one of many terribly hypocritical things the US screams about. The US managed to push for their previous pretty good, and she happened to be a woman president, to be defeated by a terrible right winger. And also, US pressure on North Korea has caused the official relationships of looking at reunification to be totally broken. And the people still continue, still try. There are families who were separated back in the 50s, and you know, folks are getting old and dying, and they have a very hard time even getting together now. A few years ago, it was fairly easy to get across the border. You had to get permission, you couldn't just go, but you could get across, but now you can't. And you may remember the wonderful Women Cross the DMZ project of 6 or 8 years ago now, where about 50 international women went to North Korea through China and came across the demilitarized zone border into South Korea. And there was a wonderful monument, sort of an arch of two women reaching out to hold hands across. It was huge. It's probably 50 feet tall, and it was an arch across the passageway. And that has been removed because it's too strong a symbol. So yes, the struggle goes on among the people, but sadly, it's been really pushed back, and officially it's been destroyed for right now. But that doesn't mean the urge isn't there and the struggle doesn't go on. It's just having a hard time right now. Yes, Regina.
Earlier this year, I lobbied for reunification of the two Koreas in the United States with Korea Peace Action Now. And so there is an active group. I think 140 different groups belong to their effort. And I don't have the bill number, but there is a bill that sits there and asks for that, it's basically asking for a permanent end to the war, since there was never, the war is not ended.
That's right. There's no treaty.
There's no
It's
treaty.
just a truce. Yeah.
So it's asking for that, and it's asking for the U.S. to support reunification efforts. So I did lobby very effectively. By Zoom. There were people in Washington that week at their national meeting, but those of us who weren't there were able to integrate quite nicely by Zoom and participate in lobbying visits. So there will be continuing. There'll be a new bill introduced in the next Congress, and they'll be continuing. Right. So there is way for us in the United States to be actively involved in this issue.
That's right. And I was physically there, Regina, because I live in Baltimore, so it's
right.
Easy. But yes, that happens every spring, and then every July 27th, which is the day that the truce was designated, there is a big demo in DC. Yeah, the struggle continues. It's just, unfortunately, the governments are more resistant to it than sometimes. But yes, absolutely. Thanks, Regina. Yes, Jan.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Ellen. I think I saw you earlier today on the CSW meeting, which is one of the things I want to talk about. But I also wanted to let people know that our Des Moines branch, and Tess Etzel is here from the Des Moines branch also. Hi, Tess. We've got an event coming on Saturday that's Paying for War, Working for Peace. And it touches on so many of the things that have come up today, but I just wanted to talk for a second about it and let you know that Joseph Gerson is going to be here. And we're excited for him that he was finally able to get the Habakashu, the Nobel Peace Prize, and I know he's so excited about that. We're excited to hear from him on Saturday. Kathy Kelly is going to be here. We also have some breakout groups, and VFP is going to be with us, and we're excited about that. We used to have a real active VFP branch in Des Moines, and I'm not sure who's coming in, but I'll have to let you know afterwards who it was. And then we have Yasser Abu Duga coming in from Palestine, and he's going to talk about the effects, the human costs of war in Gaza. But thank you so much. One of the things, talking about CSW, one of the things I wanted to, but first of all, let me thank Laura. It's so good to see Laura again. I know she worked hard to start a branch in Wilf, and so glad to see her here today. Judith, thank you so much for talking about it, enduring peace. But on the CSW, we have consultative status, as I think we all know. One of the things that we have a presence at, we do go to the CSW. I know several of the people on this call have been there. And you know, how we would more effectively help push the UN to be more effective. I really agree with, I think it was Judith who said, you know, they're the only game in town, or maybe it was you, Ellen. So how do we make it more effective? So that's really a question for any of you. And I'll stop talking now.
Yikes. That's a challenge. There's been books written about it and everything else. Yeah, I think they're having, so I don't know if anybody wants to say anything else about that. Certainly a big topic. Jan, did you have something else to say?
Yeah, I'm trying to take my hand down.
Okay. Well, okay. If there are no other questions for Ellen, we're going to go on to the report back section, where we have all the, first we take the board, if any board member wants to speak, and then the issue committees and the branches, and then anybody. So I start with the board members, and there's Darian, the president. So go ahead, Darian.
Thank you. We've heard so much today, and it just reflects to me the level of day-to-day input, data, experience, information, trauma besetting us. At the same time, these are very hopeful times, and I see so many good things happening. Hearing the report from Laura was great. Hearing you, Judith, to be reminding us about, we are in a time so crucial. Nuclear weapons could end centuries of peace work, and instead I see blossoming gardens and streets with bicycles and skies that are clear and sparkling. So enough of that. There are needs that Wilf US has for people interested in being part of the peace seekers. So watch for an e-alert about how to apply to be a peace seeker. And the reason that we especially are working on recruiting peace seekers is because we have disputes, and we want to have dispute resolution or something like that, dispute development. In any case, that will be in an upcoming e-alert. The e-news is coming out with announcements about the opening for the alternate position on the International Advisory Board representative. Also, we have the elections coming up in Wilf US. Voting will start sometime in November, I think. I'm not sure when, and end December 9th. There will be opportunities for members to hear from all the candidates, and there will be information posted that they have offered for their campaign information on our web pages. So inform yourself, watch for the e-news with further updates, and likewise e-alerts. This is an opportune time to get started with national Wilf US committees, which will be continuing. Get started now in the fall. Take a bit of time to reflect through the holidays before really going along with the start of the new board in January. So many opportunities await, and if you're interested in any of them, you can contact president@wilfus.org. secretary at wilfus.org, treasurer at wilf, etc. Lots of email addresses. Thank you. And I will say about the elections, I'm just reminded that I'm interested in finding ways to address working together across differences. In the board elections, people will have an opportunity to vote on all the offices. People will run as co-presidents, running as a team, offering to put together their leadership skills to be co-presidents for WilfUS at a time when we're going to be getting an executive director, looks like. How will we vote for those? You can vote yes for the co-presidents. You can vote no, you can abstain. And for individual candidates who are not running as co, you can vote yes or no or abstain. And there are times when it's like, I think of it like pruning, when you vote no on something, times when you abstain and your vote won't be counted one way or another, and times when you vote yes. I hope we'll have many times when we can vote yes, and I'm glad we have the ability to vote no. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see, Teresa, you have a question, please. This is the report back, so make it quick, please, but go ahead.
Well, I was just curious about the date for the candidates' night, which sounds like the same date that the ballots have to be in. I thought the ballots had to be in by December 9th. So why would we be having a candidates' night on the 9th or so late? Did I misunderstand you, Derry?
The date will be in November, and stay tuned. There will be an e-alert. I would expect it will be before Thanksgiving because it's too hard to do it during or after. So thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else from the board want to speak? If not, we go to issue committee chairs. And I think that Cheryl Spencer from Disarm wanted to say something. So Cheryl, can you? Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Two things. Speaking about ending wars and how to do that, one of our Disarm committee members, a man called Alan Harbour, has generated a plan that he would like to put into place in the next 2 to 3 months to bring to influence the war makers, as he calls them, asking them to pause their fighting and come to the peace table. So an hour or so ago, I sent an email to Wilf Branch's listserv, which includes his plan. He has a timeline. He has lists of tasks. He's asking any Wilfer to join him in a team working on this. You don't have to be a member of Disarm. Any Wilfer who's interested in approaching his way, and he's a nice man. Don't take umbrage at the fact that he's a man. So those of you who are in charge of listservs, issue committees, please forward my email to your lists so that everybody can see what he's suggesting and choose to join his team. Now, the second thing is we have supported a member of Wilf Canada to go to Russia. She went to Russia earlier in September and attended 3 conferences around different things that we need to be more peaceful about, including the Arctic region. There were mostly European people attending these meetings, but there will be a report back from those 3 conferences, and I'm going to put a little bit of information in the chat about that. So the if you want, it's October the 19th. It'll be noon in New York, and you can work out all the other times. And it's open to anybody to listen to what happened at these meetings in St. Petersburg and who she met in Moscow. and she is one of our main no to NATO people. Wilf US is against NATO. So if you want to understand more what that's about and why we don't like NATO, please attend that webinar. And please, our issue committee, the Disarm End Wars issue committee, welcomes anybody who wishes to join us. We have lots of campaigns that need more people to work on them. And look in the chat. I'm going to put this webinar registration for October the 19th, Saturday there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, tomorrow is so great. And so you can listen to her Saturday if you attend the webinar. Okay, Ellen has had her hand up for a while, and then Jan.
Just wanted to let everybody know that I did drop the link for the booklet about the two girls. And I didn't think it was the right link, but I tried it, and it shifts when you click on it to the Korean image symbols. So it will pull it up, and it is in the chat. So get it if you want. It's a really nice booklet. It's about 20 pages, but a lot of it's photos. So it'll tell you what happened and what the Koreans have been trying to do ever since. It's a good booklet.
Oh, thank you. Okay, Jan.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Diane. Well, I just wanted to make sure everybody got their buttons. We sent, yeah, cool. And Darian, thank you for having your button on. We really appreciate that. We sent one to your branch contacts, to everybody on our MEPJAC committee, Middle East Peace and Justice Action Committee, and then also to our board. So please wear them proudly. We do have more. I know, Cynthia, I think yours are in the mail. You asked for a few more, and I think yours are in the mail already. So please wear that. And, you know, we did have a recent webinar. It was just very moving. It was, we had one of our members, Nada from Lebanon, was able to secure someone from Al Jazeera to be with us to moderate the movie that we showed, the documentary that we showed. So it was very moving, and appreciated everybody that came to that. At the same time, we had 3 events going on. That was International Peace Day, and I was really excited that we had 3 events. So we had someone speak about what was going on at the UN that day. Tara from the DMV branch came and gave us an update about what was going on at the UN that day. That was powerful. So we appreciated that. And then we tried to make connections with our other committee. Our development committee was also doing a wonderful webinar, and we tried to connect with them, and we weren't able to. But I thought it was neat that we had, as Wilf, we had 3 events going that day. I'm really excited about that. And Marlena, would you like to add anything? Because from MEPJAC, what we got going on in MEPJAC?
So unmute Marlena. I know
You're still on mute, Marlena.
Yeah. There's a lot going. I guess she gave up or something.
Okay.
Yeah, the buttons are great, and I know that MEPJAC does so much. Middle East Peace Action Committee. So thank you. Okay. Teresa has her hand raised. Right now it's issue committee chairs. So go ahead, Teresa, with AHR.
Yeah, Advancing Human Rights Committee. And I do say I'm happy to see my old friend, Peggy Mish, from the Triangle Branch in the meeting. Hey, Peggy, because I do want to say a little bit about the Southeast Regional Gathering. In addition to the AHR, we just went through a struggle to receive the $500 annual allotment. And I'm glad we were able to put that baby to bed. But in a call earlier, a member of the Triangle Branch, Patrick O'Neill, talked about the work he's doing on housing justice in the Raleigh-Wake County area. So it's good to know that it's not just Georgia, but there are activities going on around housing justice, which is kind of like a central focus, in addition to the border migration justice. And Adrian Bernal was in that same call earlier, and he leaves to start moving towards the border on November 11th for the SOA Watch event that is November 16th. So he'll be making several stops in Texas and on through Arizona as he gets to the border for the big event on November 16th. So those are the two big things going on in AHR right now: border migration justice and housing justice. On the issue of the Southeast Regional meeting, we got in our mini grant on the deadline yesterday, and the grant is for $2,500 to do the Southeast Gathering, which Laura George will include your branch and all the branches across the Southeast in the 10 states, as well as the DMV, Ellen. So we'll be reaching out to 325 members. Many of them are lapsed in their dues, but we hope to get them to renew their dues as they come in to participate on the December 7th event, which is all contingent on whether or not we get the mini grant. But the Triangle Branch has identified a point person. So we have Metro Atlanta, we have Fannie Lou Hamer, we have Southern Piedmont, and the Triangle, and they've all indicated point people to participate in the planning. And we need people from the DMV and from the Laura George, I can think only Pentagon branch. So we're looking for people from all the branches in the Southeast, including the Florida branch. And so we'll need some help with that in identifying the branch contacts. But George is kind of leading the outreach to the branches, and I'm kind of leading the planning for the in-person meeting, which would be in Atlanta from noon to 5, but it will all be hybrid from 1 to 5. So that's the Southeast Regional Gathering proposed for December 7th in Atlanta in person, and then on Zoom. And of course, all the board members will be invited, and the new staff people will be invited, in addition to everyone in the Southeast. And we just encourage everyone in the Midwest, Northeast, Northwest, and Southwest to do their regional gatherings. It looks like the Southeast will be the first. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, does anyone else, I don't think any other issue committee chairs are here. I know Nancy Price wasn't able to make it. She wrote a couple times about things, but anyway, are there any branches that want to report about branch activities?
A rule approved today will prohibit retailers and other businesses.
We're hearing something, but it's not, okay.
Or charging for memberships, auto renewals, and programs linked to 3 offers. The FTC.
Okay, Darian, you have your hand raised, but you're on mute.
Right. Thank you. The Sacramento branch is seeking to reconnect and rebuild. Not to reconnect, we've stayed in touch through video meetings throughout the pandemic, but we miss in-person meetings and finding ways to draw people back out of their homes just when we've gotten used to settling down in the evening, when driving in the dark is a little scarier than it used to be. So there are a lot of challenges to rebuilding, and one of the things we want to accomplish in our rebuilding is to be a diverse branch. Sacramento is a wonderfully diverse city with people of all different kinds living close to each other in segregated neighborhoods, but tiny segregated patches, so that you have a chance to meet other people. Interesting setup. So we look forward to doing that outreach, being a more diverse branch and learning how to work with cultural differences in ways that hopefully nobody gets hurt. So thank you.
Great, good luck. Okay, Cynthia Roberts, I think of you in Cuba, but go ahead, Cynthia.
Well, Yeah, I was just going to talk actually about South Korea because many of you probably heard that the Nobel winner, I guess for literature, it's not clear, was from South Korea, Hong Kong. And it was interesting, she saying that she delivered one of the most powerful anti-war messages to her deliberate choice to remain silent after receiving her prize. And was not holding a press conference because with the ongoing war, specifically in Palestine and Ukraine, that she didn't think it would be appropriate. So just wanted to share that. And then also have a question for the event in Iowa. I did just now look and see where I can sign on through Eventbrite to get on virtually. Is that correct? It seems that I did. I have a really hard time with Eventbrite, and there was an event last night on Cuba that I had to go through YouTube because I could not get on, even though I'd reserved Eventbrite tickets. So if that is the case, I will try to be there. If I'm not, it's because of technical obstacles.
Jan, do you want to
Yeah.
answer?
Well, maybe Tess knows more about this than I do, but to my knowledge, we're not going to have a live stream or anything. Tess, do you know anything different about it? Oh, you're on mute, Tess.
No, I don't, I haven't heard anything about it going to be live streamed or Zoom. Would it be a great idea, but I don't think so.
Yeah, we
Okay,
do
good to know. Thank you. That was my original thought.
We do have, though, Cynthia and everybody here, we do have a wonderful videographer, and he will do a show about the event. And so I think it'll be really, really good. He always does a fantastic job. So we will have that, and we'll I'll make sure that we get that on on the listserv or something.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, Ellen?
Just wanted to thank Cynthia for bringing up that, yes, it was the Nobel for Literature. That book that she won for is about the Gwangju massacre. So if you're interested in finding out more, and it's an excellent book, I read it quite a while ago and I'm going to reread it now. That's what it's about. Yeah, about after the massacre, actually, but the ongoing turmoil. Yeah.
I thought the book had to come out this year to get it. Okay, good enough. Anybody else? So we're kind of at the branches, but if there are no branches that want to report, then just reopen up for any questions, anything about Wilf that you want to say or ask. Okay, Ellen, you still have your hand up, but I think it's not that you don't mean to.
Sorry, an old hand. But I will say, Diane, that perhaps they awarded her for a book she wrote this year. She also wrote a book about Gwangju. I may be mistaken about which one she won for, but she did win.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And she did write a book about that.
Okay, so
there are multiple hands.
Yeah, we have some hands. So I will take. Let me see, Regina. I saw her hand up first.
Yeah.
And then I'll take Ellen Thomas, who hasn't said anything yet, and then Jan, and then Teresa. How about that?
Well, just a little brief branches report, perhaps, from the San Francisco and East Bay branches. In September and in October, we held a discussion about the role of the executive director and what we as WILF members expect of that person, because we haven't had an executive staff person for quite some time. So we finalized our comments, which were just impressions by individual members. We didn't come up with a group statement, but just our reflections, and submitted that to the search committee and sent a copy to the board secretary so the board members could see it. And I think the search committee has some plans perhaps to suggest that other branches do a similar type discussion, because this is an important time and transition for our organization. And I think we should be thinking seriously about, how this will contribute to WILF's growth. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Regina. Yes, there was a survey too that went out about it too, so people could have done that. Ellen Thomas?
Yeah, just briefly, I wanted to ask Jan, I think I put something in the chat. Is there a link to be able to join this webinar that you were talking about that's coming up?
Yeah, unfortunately, Ellen, there's not at this time, and Tess and I can check and see if there's a way to do that. But again, I'll just repeat that we have a wonderful videographer, and I know he'll capture important parts of the event, and he'll put that together in a show. Tess talked earlier, we don't have anything planned right now, but we'll bring it up. Tess and I can bring it up to the rest of the committee and see if we can't work something out.
Okay, let me know if it does.
Okay, okay. And then is it my turn?
Yeah,
Diane?
I think.
Yeah, I just wanted to, and I think Eileen's already gone, but I'm just real excited that our new organizer is on board. She came in about the middle of the month. And she's a field organizer. She wants to work with people that maybe they're missing something on their branch and they'd like to talk about how do we beef ourselves up a little bit? Is there some idea that she can share and she can help with? So she is on board now. Eileen is the development chair, and so please talk with her or me if you'd like to talk to Shelby. Many of you will be meeting Shelby also. In fact, she's gonna launch a program starting the second Wednesday in November. So she's been working on that and got some really great ideas. So I encourage you to try to put that on your calendar. Second Wednesday of November, and she'll be doing monthly meetings the second Wednesdays starting in November. She'll skip December, of course, that's a busy month, but then we'll go back in the spring. So just real excited about that, and I'm excited about all of you to meet Shelby.
Great, yeah, we're excited to meet her. I think it was Teresa and then Darian.
I put a note in the chat directly to Jan because the Fannie Lou Hamer branch has not received those beautiful buttons. So I put the P.O. box for the Fannie Lou Hamer branch in the chat directly to you, Jan. And if we could get 5 of those buttons, that would be great. And on the issue of the field organizer, if there's any way for her to come in person to Atlanta on December 7th, she would be welcome because there'll be multiple branches there with multiple needs, and we could carve out some space in the program for that afternoon for the field organizer if she is available. Thank you.
And you said that's December 7th.
Yeah, it's a Saturday, December 7th in Atlanta, and everything flies in Atlanta. So where is Shelby from? Where is she based?
She's based in Phoenix.
Phoenix, Arizona?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a kind of expensive trip from anywhere. It seems like Arizona costs a lot. But if she can fly into Atlanta, we'll be glad to receive her for the meeting on December 7th. If we get it done, we're waiting on the mini grant answer. But if we get it and it's positive, we do have money for travel in the grant. So let's see if we can make that happen, Jan, that Shelby would come to our meeting to meet different branch leaders. We would expect Metro Atlanta, Fannie Lou Hamer, and Southern people.
We heard already, Teresa, thank you. But so she's going to have second Wednesday meetings, Shelby, is that what you said, Jan?
Second Wednesday of the month, yeah, in the evening.
We can all meet her there that way too. Okay, Darian is next, and then Deborah Livingston.
Okay, I'm just going to stay off camera, but remind people it was great to hear about that branch initiative that Regina cited of the San Francisco and the East Bay branch to talk about the executive director. There will be an e-alert inviting branches to have such conversations and to give such input. So good to see that happening. It's a big change, and we will be trying to get a sense of how whatever, well, we want your input. Additionally, I do want to remind people we're looking for those interested in supporting the peace seekers as well as being peace seekers. There's an ad hoc committee to support the peace seekers process, and then the peace seekers themselves who should be experienced, trained, whatever, in mediation, conflict resolution, etc. So if you're interested in peace seekers, please email me at president@wilfus.org. And finally, welcome to Shelby. That's great. Oh, with the peace seekers, the board will be considering those to be peace seekers, their applications at the November board meeting. So we really want to get stuff by the middle of November. Okay, and welcome aboard, Shelby. I'll be looking forward to those Wednesday gatherings when I know in the past branches have shared a lot of great tips. And
yes,
it's a little synergy that we're trying to get going in WILF. So thank you to everyone. The e-news is coming out within a day or three with various more reports. Bye.
Great. Okay, thanks. Deborah and then Margaret.
Morning for Tucson. We did meet with Shelby. She came down to Tucson last Thursday for our meeting. It was great to meet her and to get started with her. And also I wanted to report that Gloria McMillan has started a branch on the U of A campus, and she's had one meeting so far, which was a pizza party at the Gender Studies Department of the university. And then she's having another program with university students coming up on Monday, 28th. And she'll be showing a video called Jane Addams, Chicago's Haunted Sapphic Icon. So that sounds like it's going to be really exciting. She's got at least 10 people signed up from the university to get more information about WILF. And hopefully a new branch will be starting on the campus with more young people.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you. Okay, Margaret, unmute, please. Margaret. Almost, I hope.
Peggy.
Peggy?
Mm-hmm.
Mish. Okay. Unmute, Peggy.
Having a hard time doing it.
Yeah. Well, is there anyone who wants to speak? Because if not, it's already an hour and a half, and that's kind of my max that I want to go. I'm hoping Peggy could unmute before we go. But she doesn't seem to be. Okay, well, hopefully you'll get you can get the information from the chat, copy the chat if you can, and thank you all for attending.
Don't forget to save the chat.
Right, right.
There's some interesting links in there and emails. Everybody, you know how to save the chat?
And hold on a second while I put in
and Peggy, your mute button is down at the left bottom.
I think it's on the left bottom for everybody, no matter what system you have, it seems to me, but I don't know for sure. So
that's not true. I'm an iPad and mine is somewhere else.
Yeah. Oh my, of course.
Mine's at the top. It
came up. It's in a different place. Okay. It's crazy. No, I just wanted to say, Ellen Barfield and Teresa Alameen have been longtime friends that I have known, but I have moved from the southeast, from the place where I guess Teresa Alameen is working. I've moved to Massachusetts. I've retired, of course, and I'm in Massachusetts now. And I haven't found anybody here
with Wilf in this area in Massachusetts. So that's too bad, and I didn't see anybody here.
Well, you're not in Boston then, because there's a Boston.
No, I'm in Northampton, Hampton, East Hampton. No,
Well,
I'm
that's,
not in the Boston area.
that's why you're a member of the Jane Addams Branch, includes you.
Yes, Jane, and that's how I got on this webinar, because I went to the Jane Addams group, but I don't see anybody here that's from that group. But anyway, I'm in
from Jane Addams, or from
the Jane Addams group.
This is
I'm the convener. That's why I'm running this meeting.
Or do you
I'm the
mean the
convener of
Jane
Jane Addams. Yeah.
Oh, you're
do you
in
mean
Jane? Okay, good. I just wanted to say that the two people whose names that I known from decades are on this thing.
Peggy,
Oh, you lighten up yourself. Okay, I go to it's in the group in the Teresa Alamine knows about, and the one she's working with is in Carrboro, North Carolina, and I go there when I can, but they haven't been at a meeting place where I can be seen now. So I haven't been there for about a month. But I have
Peggy.
Yes.
Peggy, I will be in the area October 28th, 29th in Chapel Hill, Carrboro, Durham. Will you be around?
I can't get to those meetings. They haven't had the mechanism to have things shown anymore. So it depends on whether they get somebody. Lucy Lewis is the one who's active there now, as you know, and she is not able to get me onto their meetings, so I can't be seen there or do anything there until they get another arrangement.
Well, drop your contact information in the chat real quick before we hang up.
I don't know how to use it. Sorry.
Oh. Okay, Peggy. Well, maybe I'll find out from Lucy how to get in touch.
Lucy Lewis is the one. She knows my problems.
Well, you're looking great, Peggy. You look absolutely fabulous. So good to see you.
Yes, but I'm in my 90s.
But you look great. I'm telling you.
Everybody, I want young people in Wilf. Where are the young people?
We're trying to get them, Peggy. I'm working on it. Well, thank you, Diane, for a great meeting.
Yes, thank you everyone for attending, and yeah, see what happens in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Bye.